Apple trained all of the people in China to do manufacturing. The biggest problem that the DoD has, China is maniacally focused on space. I think people underestimate the impact that Elon Musk has had on the country.
How do you invest somebody pre-idea though?
A lot of founders kind of, they learn on the job. Hey, if you're ever leaving Palantir, please let me know. I just want to back you. And oh, you're building a new mobile carrier for privacy? That's going to be like the hardest thing I've ever heard.
I mean, when you're looking for these companies, we had talked about it. You look at their network and you look at who they are as a person and their values. I mean, but what about the idea?
So, the idea matters a lot. There's examples where I've invested in people pre-idea.
Pre-idea?
Yeah. Like I have a great company called Cape that's building a MVNO, a mobile network for privacy. And the founder, I knew the founder from another company that I had invested in called Manavar Labs. It's working with a lot of the agencies in DoD. He was on the board, and he was the head of government sales, agency sales at Palantir for a very long time. And so he just knows government sales better than anyone. He had been in the Army, and then went to Palantir. And I always just said, like, hey, if you're ever leaving Palantir, please let me know. One day I got the call and it was like, I don't care what you're doing. I just want to back you. And within a couple of weeks, he told me what he was doing. And I'm like, oh, you're building a new mobile carrier for privacy? That's going to be like the hardest thing I've ever heard. Like you were building the hardest company. But he's done an excellent job and is working with, a number of different, parts of the DoD to make it possible to basically be on your cell phone and to not be found. Mm-hmm. That's sort of like the holy grail if you're an operator, if you're part of the DoD, or if you're a high net worth individual who's worried about privacy, to be able to travel around the world and to not ping different cell towers so that no one can track you. Mm-hmm. It actually doesn't exist. Like all the different carriers can take your data. And so, yeah, he's a great example of, I didn't care what he did. He just knew, he knew the biggest problem because he had been at Palantir for so long and I wanted to invest in him. And I knew he was going to have a great team. But on the flip side, like most of the time we invest post-idea. We invest post, people having a story. And I always think like you're testing for a couple different things. You're testing for how quickly someone can learn and the depth of knowledge. And you know this better than anyone in the interviews that you do. If you just sit there and ask questions, you can learn a lot about how deep someone's knowledge goes, right? Well, tell me more about that. Like, actually, is that how it works? Like, what other companies operate like that?
How do you invest somebody pre-idea, though? I mean, what are you investing in? Well, where do they put the money?
Oh, well, in John's case, who's the founder of Cape, like, I waited till he had the entity formed, and then we gave him the company. So when I say like we invest before the company even exists, like there's a company. Mm-hmm. It's just sometimes he doesn't know what he's going to do, right? Like there are some founders where you don't know what. I even say Anduril is a great example of this, where like, yes, they started off with Sentry Tower, but like, products 3 and 4 and 5, they had no idea what those products were going to be. And some of those have just been extraordinarily successful. And so a lot of founders kind of, they learn on the job, right? Like they're talking to new customers every day. And it's like, actually, maybe we should do this instead. They call it the pivot. Mm-hmm. Silicon Valley, it's infamous. It's like, oh, companies pivoting into a different direction. But a pivot isn't seen as a bad thing. It's seen as, oh, they learned something new and they're taking that knowledge and they're building something with it. It's much more common to invest in a company, at post-idea, post-team. The pitch deck, is oftentimes explains the problem and the solution. Oftentimes there's a product built. But for early stage investing, which is where I like to invest, sometimes you don't need it. Sometimes it's just about a credible team coming together and you having belief that team can actually pull it off based on their history. A lot of the teams that I've invested in, it's like, the head of manufacturing was doing something at SpaceX, which makes me know that they know how to do manufacturing. Or, the CTO was at, another company where it's very clear that you can reference them and know what they actually built. So their reputation sort of precedes them. It's like, they wrote this paper, or they did, they built this product at Palantir, or, Brian Schimpf, who's the CEO of Anduril. I mean, he's sort of legendary as one of the best engineers, best coders that's ever come out of Palantir. And so it's like when you hear that about someone and it's like, okay, now they're going to come be CEO of Anduril, you don't worry that much about whether they're going to be able to build just an incredible product.
Gotcha. What are some of the companies that you're most excited about that you guys have invested in?
Yeah, so I'd say the thing that's happened that surprised me the most, it's like everyone kind of knows the Andurils, the Saronics, the companies that are selling directly to the DoD. But the thing that surprised me the most is how many companies want to build, the tier one supplier, like basically rebuild the defense industrial base and not sell directly to the Department of Defense, but sell to those Raytheons, the Lockheed Martins, and the Andurils, right? Like they'll work with anyone, but really build out the supply chain. And that's where I've been investing a lot. Like we have a great company called Apex Space that's building modular satellite buses. And the view in the space industry and space, I mean, to me, space is going to be the next theater. It's going to be the next, space warfare is something we really have to think a lot about. But you can't be good at space warfare if you don't have enough stuff. Like if you don't have the actual like platforms to send payloads up to space on.
The logistics.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's like we have, SpaceX can get things to space. But the biggest problem that the DoD has, and it's a problem that China's really focused on as well, is it can take 3 years to get a satellite bus, which is just, it's not the payload, it's not the thing that you're sending to space. It's the thing that, has the energy, it has the comms equipment. And really every satellite can operate with the same bus. Like you don't need the way that, again, going back to how the primes do work is the government will say, well, we're sending up this payload and this is how we want it designed. And so they'll design a brand new bus every time they do new, non-recurring engineering for the product. And then they'll send the payload up. And it's like, it can take 3 years to get a satellite bus. So this company is building satellite buses in 30 days. Like, why should it take so long to build the same bus over and over again? And so it's called
in 30 days, from 3 years to 30 days.
Yeah, they went from clean sheet design to their first mission in 13 months. Like first working mission with payloads in space and low Earth orbit. And it's like if a brand new company that at that time had only 30 employees and had raised, tens of millions of dollars, but isn't SpaceX, right? But if a brand new company can go from forming a company to putting something in space with important primes in 13 months, you should be able to do the Henry Ford manufacturing line of satellite buses and be able to build thousands and thousands of satellite buses a year for the DoD. And that's what China's doing. I mean, China is maniacally focused on space, and they are maniacally focused on how do we build as many buses as possible so that we can own the satellite infrastructure in low Earth orbit. And it's something that we're going to have to very much worry about, because right now we're in the lead in space. I actually think that's the theater where we should feel the most confidence, because Elon and SpaceX have done an incredible service for this country in terms of what they're doing with Starshield and Starlink. But like the other companies coming up, like they want to be able to build as quickly as possible and as fast as possible. And, the big fear that I have is that government's going to say, oh, well, we've written the requirements so that we need this thing on this bus. And it's like, no, like we just need the bus that can do 90% of the job and just get it up as fast as possible and make them as fast as possible. We need to produce as quickly as we can.
So this company it's a bus.
Yeah.
Brings things to space.
Yeah. So they can take any payload to space. They have three, like in some ways it's like, it looks a lot more like consumer technology. It's like we have 3 models. We have one for LEO, we have one for GEO, we have one for, the different orbit that you're going to. But for 90% of payloads, that bus is going to be perfect. And because they're only designing something 3 times versus designing a brand new thing every time they need to send something up, you take out all the design work, you crunch all the R&D, and then you build a system that allows you, it's designed for manufacturing. You manufacture as quickly as possible. And that methodology of manufacturing, again, I think people underestimate the impact that Elon Musk has had on the country. He's had an incredible impact on a bunch of companies. But the thing that he taught people, again, is the best part is no part. It's you have to make the product as simple as possible so that you can manufacture it as quickly as possible. And if you make it simple and if you make it, modular, something that can just be churned out, where it doesn't have to be, every single time something happens, you have to design something new and you have to change your manufacturing process. You'll have fewer problems with the quality control. You'll have fewer problems with is something going to blow up? Is something going to malfunction? If you're only designing a system where you don't change it and where you keep it simple, it's going to be far more successful in space. It's going to be far more successful on the road. And like that process, he's now graduated 20s, thousands of people out of Tesla and SpaceX, like these engineers who understand how to design for manufacturing and how to engineer, and that engineering and manufacturing have to be linked. And for a very long time, that is not how people viewed how you build. I mean, actually, Vice President J.D. Vance actually talked about this. He came and spoke at our summit, and he said the biggest lie that America was ever told about manufacturing was that you could divorce the design from the manufacturing. And of course, we did that. Apple's the best example of this, where if you open up an iPhone, it says designed in California. And there's this belief that you can all of the premium jobs are the design jobs and the manufacturing jobs are the cheap jobs, and you can outsource that anywhere. But it's like actually linking them is the most important, that is the most important thing. The design for manufacturing, where you link those roles in a company, is how you manufacture things that are simple, good, and you can do it as quickly as possible. And so that's the philosophy of Elon Musk. That's why everything he has done has been successful, and a lot of other people who do manufacturing are not. But now there's thousands of founders who've come out of his ethos and his, kind of the gospel of Elon, right? And they know how to build like that. And so they get on the factory floor, and that's what they do. And the DoD can just, they can just pick winners. They can say, this is what we need. This one works the best. You have 100 of them, we'll take them. And there's something about that didn't exist even 5 years ago, and it's only going to grow.
I mean, now Apple's a wildly successful company as well, and so it did work for them. Or is it not working for them?
Well, I mean, it worked for them in that it saved them a lot of money. But this is what's interesting. We were talking earlier about this Apple in China book that came out, where I think it's rewriting the narrative of what Apple did. So it wasn't like Apple went to China. I'm blanking on the writer's name, but he was the Financial Times reporter that covered Apple for like 20 years. And it's like it wasn't like they went to China and they said, oh, these guys know how to manufacture. We're going to give them, they're going to help us manufacture and achieve our goals. Apple trained all of the people in China to do manufacturing. It was something like 28 million over the course of the last 10 years that they've been there, that they've trained, which is the workforce of California. The interesting stat that this writer notes is that Apple invested, I think, something like 58 billion per year into China so that they could invest in these manufacturing hubs and invest in these factories. And when you compare it to the Marshall Plan, it's something like 2x the entire Marshall Plan that Apple has invested in China over the last 10 years. And the thing that is shocking about sort of this, like, divorcing the manufacturing and moving manufacturing out of America into a country is like, it wasn't like they had the people and the systems and the know-how where they were helping us. It was like we made an active choice, or I should say Apple made an active choice to train those people and to give them the knowledge, to give them the know-how of this is how you are going to build. And, until this book came out, I don't think people really recognized just how much capital that American companies were putting into China to train them on things we know how to do. And so, I think the kind of point of the vice president's speech was more about, like, we have to bring this design for manufacturing view back, where it's like you design where you manufacture, like, and that is Elon's view, but it's really the view of, I think, a lot in defense tech today.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.